I came across this Salesforce Reddit post that's talking about whether people are tired of being an admin. So the person that's responsible for posting this post asked, is anyone else tired of being an admin? I can't keep doing this, but I have no idea what else to do. Any ideas? And I think what that does is it captures this anxiety around not having, or the feeling that they don't have an additional transferable skill set, and that, I mean, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but some of that anxiety might come from this. They might be paying attention to what's going on in the greater cultural zeitgeist and seeing, AI kind of taking front and center, like being front and center in like the news cycles, and that might contribute to their anxiety because they feel that that's a skill set that they don't have, or don't have the desire to pick up, or don't have the time to pick up, and that their skill set in Salesforce might be atrophying because they worry that that skill set might not be as desirable, or it might not even be that. It might be that they are not really worried about AI, but the work that they do is incredibly monotonous, and that they don't really see a path to growing within the industry. So what I'm going to do is kind of read through some of the comments and articulate some of the feelings that people are saying, and try to give my thoughts and opinions on what the common threads are. So the first comment is saying the following: I'm never tired of being an admin because I like being able to afford food and shelter. And they're saying this in a sarcastic tone because they ended the they ended the sentence with that like sarcasm tone. This is a sentiment that's common with a lot of people that work just in any industry, right? Like they're willing to take a lot of the BS that happens in their day-to-day job because they're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, and that paycheck is able to provide them the life that they like to lead. And this is especially more common with people that have families to provide for, right? Like if you're single and you don't have anybody to worry about, then you might be willing to take more risk and just not work a job. But if you have something to provide for, a family to provide for, you'll take the punches at work a little bit more because you're not wanting to deal with the negative consequences of not having the ability to provide for people that you care about. Let's see what else. Okay, so the next comment is also it's a nuanced comment, which is similar to the first one. And it's, I like being an admin, but I don't like being a help desk monkey. And this is I really identify with this comment because I know a lot of admins that, they got into the Salesforce ecosystem because they're able to solve fun problems. Like they could build these flows or process builders, or they could build these workflow rules, or they could build these configurations that are to them like these fun puzzles. It just happens to be on an enterprise business CRM platform. And they got into it because of that. And the reality of their job is that they are not really doing that. They're more focused on being the front line, the first line of defense when it comes to support issues. So let's say somebody can't log in, or let's say somebody's locked out of their user account, or they need to onboard new users, or let's say somebody can't renew a quote, or somebody can't close out an opportunity. They are focused on fixing these types of issues, and it doesn't really involve them building anything net new. And if you couple that type of work with the type of stakeholders that are asking for this type of work, what you find is you find stakeholders that are really coming in a frivolous state, in a frazzled state, wanting everything to be done immediately. So it adds this sense of additional pressure onto the people that are working on these tickets, right? So they're disillusioned with, one, what the reality is compared to what they thought the job would be, and two, the stakeholders that are coming in are asking for things in an unrealistic timeline. It adds this type of pressure to the person that's working on the ticket, or these sets of tickets. And then you couple that with your management team that may not be supporting you, but are trying to save face so they don't get fired. So they're adding this pressure on you to get the work done so that they look good to their stakeholders, and that person doesn't get fired, that your manager doesn't get fired. So I totally identify with the fact that this person's sentence is saying, I like being an admin, but I don't like being a help desk monkey. Those two things are sometimes people have to take on the persona of being a help desk monkey in the hopes that they can progress in their career and focus more on the strategic parts of working on maintaining Salesforce as its own product within a business system or within a business. This next comment is pretty indicative of, it's very similar to the first comment. And it's, I love being an admin. I'm sorry. I'm getting tired of it too, but these days I'm just happy to have a job. So this goes a lot to this kind of goes back to the sentiment that I was talking about earlier, which is the idea that, we are seeing rounds of layoffs happen seemingly like every few weeks. Large organizations are laying people off, ascribing the reason for it as either they want to quote unquote fire low performers, but it's really a cope to make themselves look good, to pump their company stock within Wall Street. And so these layoffs send these shockwaves throughout the labor market where people are scared, right? The idea of a full-time job being a stable position is sometimes seen as a fantasy for a lot of people just because of the things that they've seen in the news. And the idea of clinging on to a stable job in their mind is it placates them, right? Like, yeah, they're tired of the same monotonous job that they do day in and day out, but they're honestly just happy to be getting a paycheck because it pays the bills, it puts a roof over their head, it puts food on the table. And the downside of having a boring job does not outweigh the downside of not having any money coming in. And this next comment is also pretty similar to a few previous comments, which was this: it's definitely a much more exhausting than your typical career. It's a very high pressure job and you're always learning. You're working with end users, which makes this career unique. I have my seasons where I'm over it too, but you just have to keep pushing. There's no words of wisdom here except that you've got this. I've successfully tricked myself into thinking I like the job and it's made it much more pleasant. Except for the help desk monkey part. I absolutely hate that. You could look into getting into management. I swear, all my managers did nothing besides relay information and motivate the team, but they made significantly more than most of my team did. So I really can't speak to it being more exhausting than a typical career because I don't know what a quote unquote typical career is. Frankly speaking, like the Salesforce industry has been what I've known since I've gotten into the white collar working environment. So I have nothing to compare to. I will say though that there are times where it can be a very high pressure job. If you hear the phrases like it's fast paced, dynamic, it's basically code words for we're understaffed and we don't want to pay people to help fix the problems. We'd rather get and extract as much time and work from these people that we're hiring full time as possible. So that's where the high pressure comes from. This is a good call out. The fact that this person says you're working with end users, which makes this career unique, right? Well, I guess every industry's got stakeholders. It's just that these stakeholders are really tied to generating revenue for a company. And so these salespeople, these revenue generating functions, if they're probably working for companies where the sales leadership says that if it's not in Salesforce, then you don't get paid out on it. And so if there is something that's blocking that information from getting into Salesforce, let's say you can't close out an opportunity, or you can't convert a lead. Well, you best believe that if there's something that's blocking a salesperson from getting paid, they're going to complain and let you know because you're messing with their compensation. Now, it's not life or death. Obviously, we're not all working in a physician's office, or we're not surgeons, and it's not life or death. But when you mess with somebody's compensation, it can get pretty serious. So I don't really have much else to say other than this person did say that they tricked themselves into thinking that they like the job, which is some sort of like psychological, it's some sort of cope. Honestly, it's like a coping mechanism. I don't know if that's healthy or not. I'm just calling that out. I don't really have anything. Managers can make a lot of money. Yes. And a lot of managers that I've seen in my experience, they really don't have a lot of Salesforce knowledge. They might have knowledge from other systems and they just happen to inherit Salesforce as a product because they've done a good job at schmoozing with the leadership of a particular organization. And so the person that's responsible for the entire department will give this person Salesforce as an additional tool, an additional product to maintain, not realizing that it is pretty different than all the other business systems like NetSuite and HRIS systems like Workday, and it's different. And they do make a lot more money, right? Because yeah, they're not involved in the day to day, but they are really supposed to make the engine go, like the engine of all the business systems. These managers are in charge of keeping it going, and that is worth something, right? It is worth something. Sometimes individual contributors can say that they don't really do anything, and honestly, yeah, sometimes they don't really do anything, especially if the system's working really well. But when the system's not working well, these managers are working overtime, trying to get things going. Maybe I can work on that concept a little bit more, but I'm just kind of riffing right now. Okay, this one's more of a lamenting their compensation. This comment is, I love being an admin, but I hate being paid like one when I'm expected to do the work of a BA, a PM, and an architect. So a business analyst, a project manager, and an architect. If you want me to do the work of an entire department by myself, then pay me what you pay for people. All right, so in spirit, I completely agree with this person, right? This goes back to the idea of companies underpaying and overworking the skeleton crew that they've amassed, because companies have slashed budgets for CRM and IT and all that stuff. But frankly, the reality is that that's never going to happen. A company is never going to go to one person and say, wow, you're doing the job of 4 people. We're going to pay you the job of 4 people. That's just frankly never going to happen if you're a W-2 employee. The way that you could do this is if you, move into sort of fractional work, or you position yourself as an architect that can build everything from soup to nuts. Now, let's say you're making like $100,000 as an admin, and if you position yourself as an architect that can handle doing the admin work, the BA work, the PM work, and the architecture work, then you can command significantly higher than that, right? Sometimes you can charge you could probably get a $300,000 Salesforce architect position if you play your cards right. But you're not going to get the 4X, and using the messaging, pay me the compensation of 4 people, is just not going to land anywhere. So you just have to be strategic with how you message your skill set and how you actually can move the needle for the business in a positive direction. You definitely won't be able to do this if you message yourself as an admin that's doing the work of a BA, PM, and architect. You've got to message yourself as an architect that can do the work of an admin, BA, and PM. It's a slight nuance, but it will definitely get you the compensation, a higher compensation than what you're currently getting.